A footprint fills with water. It is shallow, pressed into soft mud near the edge of a river, and for a moment it looks meaningless. Then the surface trembles. A ripple moves across it, not from rain, not from wind, but from something heavy passing nearby. The person who made the footprint is already gone, but something else has found it. Long before humans built roads, maps, walls, or names for the animals around them, they left signs in the ground without meaning to. A heel in the mud, a broken reed, a smear of scent carried by damp air. To us, these are traces. To a predator, they were almost a message. Something warm came this way. Something slow enough to follow, something that might be alone. This is the human story before it became heroic. Not the story of conquerors standing over the wilderness, not the story of clever hunters moving confidently across the ancient plains, not even the story of intelligence rising peacefully above nature. The older story is quieter. Humans were once readable. They were bodies that left trails, smells, sounds, and weaknesses behind them. They moved through landscapes already filled with animals that had been hunting, hiding, ambushing, smelling, listening, and surviving for millions of years before the human mind began to wonder about itself. Most people imagine ancient humans as hunters first. That image is not entirely wrong, but it begins too late. Before humans could study prey, something studied them. Before humans learned to follow tracks, they made tracks that could be followed. Before they became dangerous in groups, they were vulnerable as individuals. And the ancient world understood vulnerability without needing a word for it. A person who limped changed the rhythm of the group. A child who wandered changed the edge of safety. A tired adult who fell behind became more visible to the world. Predators did not need hatred, drama, or intention. They only needed opportunity. In nature, opportunity is often quieter than fear, and that is what made it so dangerous. The landscape was not empty space around early humans. It was an intelligence test they were taking every moment. Every sound had to be weighed. Every movement had to be interpreted. Every shadow had to be questioned without becoming paralyzed by the questioning. Surviving did not mean knowing everything. It meant noticing enough, soon enough, to remain alive. That may be the first hidden truth. Human beings did not begin as masters of the world. They began as nervous animals learning how not to disappear. The ancient human body was not impressive beside many predators. It had no claws to tear with, no thick hide to absorb attack, no great speed, no jaws that could settle a fight in a single moment. Its greatest advantage was not obvious from the outside. The advantage was inside the pause before movement. Inside the question, what was that? That question may sound simple, but it changed everything. A creature that asks what a sound might mean is already living slightly ahead of the present. It is no longer trapped in the immediate moment. It is imagining what has not yet appeared. And imagination, before it became art or philosophy, may have been a way of staying alive. When daylight covered the land, humans had options. They could see the slope of the ground, the line of trees, the movement of animals in the distance. They could keep children close, search for food, watch the sky, and choose safer paths through open space. Then the sun lowered, and the world changed its rules. Darkness did not simply make the landscape darker. It removed information. Distances collapsed. Familiar places became uncertain. A bush became a crouched shape. A stone became a head. A silence became active, almost alive. The night did not need to attack humans. It only had to make them less sure. Other animals entered that uncertainty with gifts humans did not have. Some could smell a body from far away. Some could hear movement beneath leaves. Some could wait for hours at the edge of a path, patient enough to let fear exhaust itself. Humans had intelligence, but intelligence has limits when the eyes cannot confirm what the body suspects. Most people think fear is the opposite of intelligence. That is a comfortable mistake. Fear was intelligence before explanation arrived. The person who woke too easily may have survived. The one who turned toward a small sound may have survived. The one who felt watched and moved closer to the group may have survived, even if no one ever proved what had been nearby. In a safe world, overreaction looks foolish. In a dangerous world, overreaction can become ancestry. This is why fear should not be imagined only as panic. Ancient fear was a system of attention. It tightened the body, sharpened hearing, narrowed focus, and forced the mind to search for meaning inside incomplete information. It asked the question that comfort rarely asks. What if this is not nothing? That question shaped the human nervous system. It made empty spaces feel suspicious. It made sudden silence heavier than noise. It made the body prepare before proof arrived, because proof in the ancient world could arrive too late to matter. But fear had its own danger. Too little fear could get a person killed. Too much fear could break the group. A creature that runs at every sound wastes strength. A group that panics at every shadow loses coordination. Survival required something more delicate than terror. It required fear to be controlled, shared, interpreted, and turned into action. This was the beginning of a strange transformation. Humans did not defeat fear. They organized around it, and one of the oldest centers of that organization was fire. To modern eyes, fire is a tool. It belongs to kitchens, campsites, lamps, engines, rituals, and emergencies. It appears when summoned and disappears when dismissed, so ordinary that its ancient strangeness is almost impossible to feel. But in the deep past, fire was not ordinary. Fire was a boundary made of light. Archaeologists still debate the exact timeline of when humans controlled fire regularly, but the deeper meaning is clear. Whenever humans learned to carry flame, preserve it, and gather around it, they changed the psychology of night. Darkness had always expanded when the sun vanished. Fire made darkness stop. Not everywhere. Not permanently. Not safely enough to remove fear. But around a flame, there was a circle where faces returned. Hands became visible. Tools could be seen, and the group could recognize itself. That circle mattered. Outside it, the old world remained. Inside it, humans became harder to read as prey. A lone body in darkness could be simple to evaluate. A separated figure could be followed, tested, approached. But a group gathered around moving light was different. It produced smoke, heat, voices, sparks, shifting shadows, and uncertainty. Predators understand risk in their own way. They do not need philosophy to hesitate. The fire did not say humans were powerful. It said humans were not simple. And in a world where every animal must measure the cost of every mistake, not being simple could be enough to survive another night. Yet fire was not only for keeping danger away, it also pulled humans inward. Around the flame, bodies gathered close. People could watch different directions while remaining connected. Someone could wake as another slept. Someone could notice a child drifting too far. Someone could remember where the group had heard movement the night before. The fire created a center. The group became the shield around it. This is where the human advantage becomes less visible, but far more important. A single human was fragile. A group of humans was a different kind of animal. Not because the bodies changed, but because the awareness changed. One person could listen behind. Another could watch the grass. Another could carry memory from yesterday. Another could recognize the smell of water, smoke, blood, rain, or animals moving through dust. No individual had to hold the whole world alone. The group distributed fear. And once fear was distributed, it could become knowledge. Most people think the first human weapon was something held in the hand. A stone, a stick, a spear. But before the weapon in the hand came the warning in the group, a lifted head, a frozen posture, a hand pulling someone back, a silence spreading from one body to another until everyone understood that something had changed. Long before language became complex, attention was already social. Humans watched the world, but they also watched each other watching the world. The fear in one face could become information for 10 bodies. A single suspicion could move through the group faster than a predator could cross open ground. This was not weakness. This was coordination beginning to replace instinct. A predator often succeeds by separating one life from the many. It looks for the edge, the delay, the unguarded moment. Humans answered by making the edge harder to find. They stayed close, moved together, warned each other, and slowly turned vulnerability into a shared defense. One pair of eyes could miss the danger. Many eyes could change the meaning of the night. That does not mean the group was always safe. No ancient system was perfect. Fire could die, food could run low, children could wander, arguments could divide attention, weather could scatter signs and drown sound beneath rain. The ancient world did not need humans to fail completely. It only needed one opening. This is why survival became more than a reaction. The group had to remember where danger had appeared before, which paths felt exposed, which water holes attracted animals, which seasons changed the behavior of predators, which silences meant nothing, and which silences meant the forest had already noticed something. At first, danger was only an event. Then it became a pattern. And once danger became a pattern, humans began to study it. This is one of the great reversals in the human story. The hunted animal did not only hide, it watched, it compared, it remembered. It learned that the world left clues before it revealed itself. A track was not just a mark in mud, it was movement preserved. A broken branch was not just damage, it was direction. Birds lifting suddenly from trees were not just birds. They could be a warning from a place the eye had not yet reached. The landscape became readable because fear demanded reading. Quote, most people think intelligence began with curiosity alone, as if early humans simply wondered about the world until knowledge appeared. Curiosity mattered, but curiosity was not the only teacher. Danger was a teacher too. A creature under pressure must think beyond the present. It must ask what happened here, what may be near, what might return, what the silence means, why the animals are moving differently, and whether the safe path from yesterday is still safe today. That is prediction. Prediction is not just a mental skill, it is time travel under pressure. The mind leaves the present and enters a possible future, not for beauty, not for theory, but because the body may not survive if it waits. This ability to imagine the unseen is one of the strangest things humans ever learned to do. It may have begun with fear. What if something is behind the trees? What if the tracks are fresh? What if the riverbank is not safe tonight? What if the eyes in the dark are closer than they seem? These questions could disturb the mind, but they could also save it. They trained humans to live inside possibilities. And once a mind can imagine danger before it arrives, it can also imagine food before it is found, shelter before it is built, a path before it is taken, and a tool before it exists. The same mental power that feared the invisible would one day create the invisible: plans, stories, gods, borders, futures. But before any of that, it created survival. Humans began to understand predators not as random monsters, but as living patterns. They learned where animals waited, how they moved, when they returned, what they avoided, and what made them hesitate. The more humans studied danger, the less supernatural it became. A predator that always appeared from nowhere was terror. A predator with habits was information. That did not remove fear, it made fear useful. The hunted animal was beginning to learn the predator's mind. Slowly, the balance shifted, not in a single dramatic moment, and not everywhere at once. For a long time, humans remained both dangerous and vulnerable. They could hunt in daylight and still be hunted after dark. They could plan as a group and still be fragile alone. They could carry tools and still lose everything to surprise. That tension is the truth. Humanity was not born dominant. It became difficult. Difficult to surprise. Difficult to isolate. Difficult to understand. Difficult, eventually, to stop. The tools mattered. The fire mattered. The growing intelligence mattered. But beneath all of them was something deeper: knowledge that could outlive the individual. An animal can learn from danger. A human group can turn danger into instruction. A place where someone vanished could become forbidden. A sound heard before an attack could become a warning. A path that exposed the group could be avoided by children who had never seen what happened there. The dead could not speak, but the living carried the meaning of their absence. This is how fear became memory. Memory became custom. Custom became culture. And culture became an invisible shelter around the human body. Every child born into a group inherited more than instincts. The child inherited warnings. Stay close. Watch the water. Listen when the animals stop calling. Do not sleep too far from the light. Do not mistake silence for emptiness. These instructions were not simple rules. They were ancient fear compressed into behavior. Over generations, humans carried these behaviors across landscapes. They moved through plains, forests, deserts, coastlines, mountains, and frozen regions, meeting new animals and new dangers. Each place demanded new attention, but the old pattern remained. Notice, remember, share, prepare. This pattern became one of the engines of human expansion. Humans did not spread because they were fearless. Fearless animals make bold mistakes, and nature has never been sentimental about bold mistakes. Humans spread because they could preserve fear after the danger had passed. A predator could only stand in one place. A story could travel. A predator could frighten one group. A warning could shape the behavior of people not yet born. That is a deeper power than teeth. It explains why the ancient hunted animal eventually became something the world had to account for. Fire gave humans a circle. Cooperation gave them a body larger than one body. Memory gave them time. Prediction gave them the future. Together, these things turned fear into architecture. Not immediately into stone walls or cities, but first into the invisible architecture of survival. Who sleeps where? Who watches the dark? Which paths are avoided? Which sounds matter? Which children must be pulled back before they understand danger? Long before civilization was built outside the body, it was rehearsed inside the group. And when humans eventually built shelters, villages, roads, gates, towers, lamps, alarms, and laws, they were not escaping ancient fear as much as giving it structure. A wall is fear made solid. A lamp is fire made obedient. A map is memory spread flat. A warning is someone else's fear arriving before danger does. Modern life feels separate from the old world, but the nervous system is older than the city. It still listens in ways we do not fully command. It still turns toward footsteps. It still tightens in darkness. It still feels separation as danger and silence as a question. Somewhere inside the human body, the ancient landscape has not ended. The riverbank is still being checked. The grass is still being watched. The night is still asking whether we are paying attention. This is why the story of ancient humans surviving predators is not really a story about predators alone. It is a story about how vulnerability became imagination, how imagination became cooperation, and how cooperation became power. The world did not make humans strong first. It made them afraid. Then it forced them to do something extraordinary with that fear. A frightened animal can run from danger. A human can remember it. A human can draw it, speak it, teach it, exaggerate it, question it, organize around it, and pass it into the minds of people who were never there. That is how one moment near a dark river could outlive the body that experienced it. The hunted did not merely survive by escaping. They survived by transforming fear into a form of inheritance. And this inheritance grew. It became stories beside fire, then customs inside groups, then tools, shelters, migrations, settlements, myths, warnings, and eventually civilizations large enough to make the night glow from horizon to horizon. There is a quiet horror in that. The same fear that once kept humans close to the fire helped teach them to reshape the planet. The same mind that imagined unseen predators would later imagine unseen borders, unseen futures, unseen machines, and unseen powers hidden inside nature itself. Humanity did not become powerful by forgetting it was prey. It became powerful because it remembered too well. Long ago, a footprint filled with water at the edge of a river, and something lowered its head to read it. The person who made that footprint was only trying to live through another day. But inside that fragile body was a mind learning to read the world back. And over time, the animal that once left tracks for predators became the animal whose tracks would cover the earth. The hunted did not simply escape the darkness. It learned from the darkness. Then it carried that lesson forward until the rest of the world had to listen for human footsteps.